אם תסלחו לי, אני אדבר בשפת האם, באנגלית. אני אנסה תרגמתי את זה לעברית ואני אשלח למי שמעוניין. At the Shiva, and during the following 12 months, we comfort the mourner, Hamokoim Yenachim Eschem. We mark this first Yahrzeit of our Father in this special Makom, Yad Binyamin, one of the many Makomot our Father built in a life brimming with Toras Chaim and Ahavas Chesed. My father loved to come to this place. He would come here every morning, greet the security guard with his warm smile and joyful shalom, learn with his chavrusas, Reb Zev and Reb Shalom, check on the food supplies, schmooze with the chevra, argue with his Rosh Kollel, Reb Dani, strategize with Reb Moti, plan with his Menahel, Reb Yeshua. My father's radiant spirit lives on in this Makoim. At the Shiva, a young Rosh Hashiva suggested that the word Makom enshrined in the expression Hamokoim Yenachem Eschem refers to the Makom the Niftar occupies beside the Kisei HaKavod. That his spirit rests there should bring us comfort. It's a lovely pshat. It was not my father's way. My father took no interest in the space he might one day come to occupy in the heavens above. My father, whose name was Chaim, loved life. Yes, we are human. Life is all too brief. Our bodies, our souls, our intellect, our imagination are constrained. But with all of life's limitations, we have the freedom to choose the good, and there is blessing to be had, and they are both to be found right here on earth. My father understood that it is only here on earth that we can be creators, working alongside the Rabbeinu Shloim in creating worlds, in building our very own Makom right here on earth. My father built this Makom in his 94 years with all his energies, with his every breath, with his action, with his kindness, with a family he built, with a Torah he learned, with the work of his hands, and with the love in his heart. That was my father's Makom. That is the Makom that comforts us today. I remember, as a child, sitting on my father's shoulders. They were, for me, the highest place on earth. From there, he would conjure fabulous magic. You see, my father, he had a special relationship with the magic creatures. He knew where they hid. He traded with them. Some nights, he would bargain with a wizard on the way home from work and bring magic beans for us to delight in. And other nights, he whisked us away in our pajamas to the home of the fairies in Golders Hill Park, calling down to those enchanted nymphs of the trees to rain chestnuts upon us for our collection. As we grew older, the magic faded. The fairies and the wizards faded. But the magic continued as he taught us to believe in ourselves and the power of our possibility, the greatest magic of all. Children grow to fill the space we create for them, and if it is big, they will walk tall. That space that you create is a magical creation. To create it requires a deep sense of faith. Our father was an ish emunah. With our first breath each morning, we say Modeh ani lefanecha, and we end with the words Rabbah emunatecha. Great is your faith, not just our faith in you, Rabbeinu Shalom, but your faith in us. Rabbah emunatecha, restoring our souls to our bodies each morning in a joyful leap of faith, saying, I believe in you. Dad was an ish emunah. He believed in us. He had faith in us. And with our every breath, we give thanks for the magic that brought. I once compared my father's emunah. Apologies. My father's emunah in the Rabbeinu Shalom ran deep too. So much of faith today is just skin deep, not my father's. My father's ran deep and strong. His was the faith of a man who understood both the miraculous complexity and the mystery of life. I once compared his faith to that of Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. The people stand at the foot of the mountain. The mountain shudders, the mountain top is ablaze, and a dark cloud descends. And the psukim read, V'chol ha'om royim es ha'koilos, vayonuhu ha'om, vayamdu merochik. And the people saw the awe-inspiring sound, and they trembled, and they stood at a distance. What does it mean to see sound? How's that possible? Rashi explains that all sensory perception was opened up at the moment of revelation, and the people could see and hear the sound. And the psukim continue. Moshe nigash el hoarofel, and Moshe entered a pillar of cloud. The contrasting images are powerful. The Bnei Yisrael see with a clarity never before and never again seen in human history. And Moshe in a pillar of cloud sees almost nothing. What is the message? I suggested to Dad that if you imagine that you have it all figured out, if you think that you see and understand everything clearly, then where do you stand? Vayamdu ha'om merochik. You stand 1,000,000 miles from the truth. U'Moshe nigash el ha'arofel asher shom ha'elikim. The Rabbeinu Shalom is in the mystery, in the complexity, in the uncertainty. That was the way our father approached his faith. It's not an easy place to stand in. The Arafel never is. But then I hear our father's voice, who said life was meant to be easy. The Torah itself was delivered in that very Arafel. Dad, who spent, as far as I can remember, more than half his day, every day, within the four walls of the Beit HaMidrash, fully understood this message for life. There is no certainty, no clarity in the Beit HaMidrash. Its walls ring with the sound of Machlekes. Hillel and Shammai, Rav and Shmuel, Rav and Abaya. The Beit HaMidrash does not seek easy answers. Its walls fully appreciate that there's more than one way of approaching the truth. In practice, we have to find a single halachic way, but our emotional and intellectual lives have to be able to hold in balance a multiplicity of views. My father's favorite Gemara was the story of Toner Achnoi. You can find it in Baba Metzia Daf Nun Tes. He discussed it often. He wrote a lot about it. For those who are not familiar, let me sum it up briefly. Rebbe Eliezer repeatedly invokes divine miracles and even God's direct intervention in an attempt to convince Rabbi Yeshua and the Chachomim that the halacha is in accordance with his opinion. Time and again, Rabbi Yeshua and the Chachomim reject his methods of proof. Finally, a bas koel comes from heaven and declares that Rebbe Eliezer is right. Rabbi Yeshua and the Chachomim respond and say, the Torah is no longer in heaven. Loi bashamayim hi. It's now with us, here on earth, and we no longer need to defer to heavenly authority for halachic psak. At one point in the Gemara, Rebbe Eliezer says, if the halacha is like me, let the walls of the Beis HaMedrash, koslei Beis HaMedrash yochichu, let the walls of the Beis HaMedrash prove that the halacha is like me. And the walls of the Beis HaMedrash begin to collapse. They tilt and they begin to collapse, and Rabbi Yeshua turns towards them and he rebukes them and he says, walls, what business do you have to interfere in the machlekes of Talmidei Chachomim? And the Gemara writes that in deference to Rabbi Yeshua, the walls do not fall, but in deference to Rebbe Eliezer, neither do they resume their original position. And concludes the Gemara that is how the Beis HaMedrash, those Beis HaMedrash walls stand until today. I once suggested to my father that perhaps Pshat in the conclusion of the Gemara is as follows. If you are seeking a genuine Beis HaMedrash today, go and find the ones with the slanting walls. For only in them will you find evidence of kavod, of respect for a multiplicity of views. My father liked that pshat. This Beis HaMedrash has slanting walls. It was one of the conditions of the founding of this Beis HaMedrash, Vanny is nodding his head, that it should contain Talmidei Chachomim of every type, shape, and color. Chasidim, Dati Leumi, Sephardim, Litvaks, Prushim, Chadalim, all learning Torah together. That was typical of my father. He had warm relationships with Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, with Reb Aaron Lichtenstein, with Reb Osher Weiss, with the Rishon LeZion Rav Amar, with Reb Shaul Alter, with Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. My father's Torah was generous and expansive, a Torah we rarely find today. Mom? Just behind Abba. Sorry. Thank you. Mum, you were the love of Dad's life for over 60 years. You are the beating heart of our family. In his introduction to his book, The Oral Law, Dad refers to you in the words of Rabbi Akiva. Sheli v'shelochem shelo hi. All that he was, all that we are, your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren, is because of you. Your delicate and beautiful frame supports us all, quietly without fuss, graciously with dignity. You lift us when we are fallen. You believe in us even when we are undeserving. You encourage us always. You inspire us to great undertakings, to live fearlessly and by our ideals. We thank the Ribbono Shel Olam for the blessing that you are, and for the sense that you and Dad instilled in us of the profound goodness of this world and the miraculous gift of life itself. How do I sum up my father in a few words? Impossible. But let me end with a Gemara about summing up. It's a Gemara in Makos Daf Kaf Dalet. The Gemara attempts to sum up the Tariag mitzvahs into a small number of fundamental principles. David HaMelech reduces them to 11. Others shrink them even further. The Novi Habakkuk identifies a single unifying principle, and that is V'tzadik be'emunosoi yichyeh. A tzaddik shall live with a deep sense of faith. That was our father, Ish Emunah. His name was Chaim, and he lived by his faith. Faith in the Ribbono Shel Olam, faith in life, faith in people. That was the mokim he created here on earth. That is the mokim that brings us comfort today. Hamakom hazeh yenachem et kulanu. Amen. Thank you.